the tycoon's public betrayal. This story contains themes of betrayal and redemption that might hit close to home. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button if you're ready for a journey of empowerment. Carla Montero's life had been a constant effort to maintain appearances. Every morning, she woke up early to prepare breakfast for Esteban, her husband, a prominent businessman who recently spent more time in business meetings than at home. She ignored the signs, the late calls, the different perfumes, convincing herself that everything was fine. The annual business gala was the most important event of the year. Carla had meticulously chosen a red dress that cost her 3 months of savings. As she got ready in front of the mirror, she tried to calm the unsettling feeling that had churned in her stomach for weeks. "Everything is fine," she repeated to herself, even as her instinct screamed otherwise. The Imperial Hotel ballroom gleamed with golden lights. Laughter and conversation filled the air as Carla searched for Esteban among the crowd. She found him by the champagne fountain, but he wasn't alone. Beside him, Valeria Ruiz, his young assistant, smiled as he whispered something in her ear. Carla froze when Esteban took the microphone. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely hear. "I want to make an important announcement," he said, his voice echoing throughout the ballroom. "Life presents us with opportunities to be honest with ourselves. Today, I want to introduce you to the woman I truly love, Valeria." Murmurs filled the room. Some pitying glances turned towards Carla, others of surprise, and a few of contempt. But she could only watch as her world crumbled before her eyes. She ran out of the ballroom, tears blurring her vision. In the taxi back home, memories of 12 years of marriage flashed through her mind like a poorly edited film. The signs had always been there, the late arrivals, the business trips, the secret calls. That night, as she packed her belongings in what had been her home, Carla understood that she had not only lost her husband, she had lost her security, her stability, and the life she knew. Amidst sobs, she found a photo from her graduation, when she dreamed of being a successful businesswoman before Esteban convinced her that her place was at home. "This time," she promised herself as she put the photo in her suitcase, "I'm going to live for myself." What Carla didn't know was that her public humiliation would be the first step towards a life she never imagined possible, and that somewhere in the city, a man named Nicolas Ferrer, known for his business acumen and cold demeanor, would soon become a crucial part of her redemption story. Rock bottom and a glimmer of hope. The following days were a nightmare for Carla. Esteban had frozen all joint accounts and changed the locks on the house. Her calls went straight to voicemail, and her messages were left unread. Reality hit her like a slap. She was alone and without resources. She temporarily settled in a small, cheap hotel in the city center. Every morning she woke up hoping it was all a nightmare. But the peeling ceiling and uncomfortable mattress reminded her of her new reality. "I need to talk to you," she wrote to Esteban for the umpteenth time. The response came through his lawyer, a cold message informing her that any communication should be through legal representatives. With her savings rapidly dwindling, Carla began looking for work. But after 12 years as a housewife, her resume seemed empty. The interviews always ended the same way. "I'm sorry, but we need someone with recent experience." One afternoon, as she counted the coins she had left to buy something to eat, she received a call from Maria, her only friend, who hadn't turned her back on her after the scandal. "Carla, did you see the photos on Instagram? Esteban and Valeria are in the Maldives." The images crushed her. Her still husband tanning on a paradise beach while she ate instant noodles in a hotel room. Despair began to consume her. Then, her wedding ring. And finally, her car. Each sale was a piece of her old life fading away. One night, sitting on the hotel bed, with only 500 pesos in her purse and a pile of rejected resumes, Carla hit rock bottom. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked out the window at the city lights she had once considered her own. How did I end up like this? She wondered, remembering how she had abandoned her professional dreams to please Esteban. He always insisted that a wife didn't need to work, that he would take care of everything. Now she understood the price of that dependence. The sound of a notification interrupted her thoughts. It was an email from a company she didn't remember contacting, Grupo Ferrer Internacional. They were looking for an administrative assistant and wanted to interview her the next day. As she ironed her last decent suit, Carla looked at herself in the stained bathroom mirror. Her eyes, though tired, shone with determination. She had no idea who Nicolas Ferrer was or why his company had contacted her, but she knew one thing. This could be her last chance to save herself. Tomorrow, she promised herself, I start over, no matter what I have to do. A cold boss, a hot opportunity. The Grupo Ferrer Internacional building stood like a glass and steel structure in the city's financial heart. Carla, standing in the lobby with her resume in hand, felt tiny before its imposing presence. Good morning, I have an interview, she told the receptionist, trying to keep her voice from trembling. She was led to the 40th floor, where the Human Resources office seemed a different world from the hotel where she slept. After an hour of questions and tests, the HR director stared at her. Ms. Montero, I'll be honest. Your lack of recent experience is concerning, but your tests are exceptional. The position is for Mr. Ferrer's assistant. You should know he is demanding. 3 people have resigned this month. Carla clenched her hands under the desk. I'm willing to work hard. I just need a chance. Her first encounter with Nicolas Ferrer was brief and cold. Tall, impeccably suited, with piercing eyes, he barely looked at her when she entered his office. I don't care about your personal history, he told her without looking up from his documents. I only care about results. Understood? Yes, Mr. Ferrer. The first few days were hell. Nicolas demanded perfection in everything. Reports without a single error. Coffee at the exact temperature. A schedule timed to the minute. His good mornings were barely audible grunts. One night, while organizing documents late, Carla found an error in an important contract. She hesitated to mention it, but gathered courage and knocked on Nicolas's door. Mr. Ferrer, in clause 7.3, there's an inconsistency that could cost us millions. For the first time, he looked at her directly. He reviewed the document in silence and then nodded. Good job. Correct it. Small victories like that kept her afloat. However, the first few months were not easy. She had to correct several errors in her reports, learned to deal with Ferrer's extreme pressure, and even considered quitting a couple of times. There were days when she barely slept, feeling she would never be good enough. But little by little, she learned the office rhythm, memorized Nicolas's preferences, and began to anticipate problems before they arose. Her small salary allowed her to move into a tiny but respectable apartment. Every night, exhausted but determined, she searched for online courses to update herself, aware that she still had much to prove. One day, while serving coffee at an important meeting, she heard an executive mention Esteban's name. Her hand trembled slightly, but she didn't spill a drop. Nicolas, who never seemed to notice anything personal, observed her for a second. That afternoon, upon leaving, she found an envelope on her desk. It was a raise and a paid enrollment in an executive administration course. The accompanying note, with Nicolas's signature, simply said, "To improve your performance." For the first time in months, Carla genuinely smiled. It wasn't compassion she needed, but an opportunity to prove her worth. And although Nicolas Ferrer seemed like an iceberg, at least he was a fair iceberg. The executive and the revelation months passed, and Carla became a fundamental piece in Nicolas Ferrer's office. She was no longer just another assistant. She began to participate in important meetings, contributing ideas that caught everyone's attention. One afternoon, during a crucial presentation with foreign investors, the projector failed. While everyone panicked, Carla improvised a presentation using whiteboards and hand-drawn charts. Her mastery of the subject impressed the investors so much that they closed the deal that very day. "Impressive," Nicolas murmured after the meeting. It was the first time she had seen him smile, even slightly. The relationship between them began to subtly change. The morning grunts turned into short conversations. Dry orders transformed into exchanges of ideas. Nicolas began to ask for her opinion on increasingly important matters. One night, while working late on an important project, Nicolas surprised her with a personal question. "Why did you accept this job, Carla? With your ability, you could have looked for something better." She hesitated before answering. "I needed to start over. Sometimes life forces you to reinvent yourself." He observed her for a long time before nodding. "I know that feeling." News of her efficiency spread throughout the company. Other executives began to request her help on special projects. Her office moved closer to Nicolas's, and her title changed to Senior Executive Assistant. One morning, while reviewing the financial newspaper, she saw a photo of Esteban and Valeria at a social event. For the first time, she felt no pain. Instead, she experienced a mix of pity and gratitude. If he hadn't betrayed her, she would never have discovered her true potential. "Everything all right?" Nicolas asked, noticing her distraction. "Better than ever," she replied sincerely. That afternoon, during a board meeting, Nicolas surprised her again. "I propose that Carla lead the South American market expansion project," he announced to the board of directors. Murmurs filled the room. Some directors showed skepticism, but Nicolas silenced them with a glance. "She has demonstrated more competence in 6 months than many in years. Any objections?" No one dared to contradict him. As they left the meeting, Carla stopped him. "Why do you trust me so much?" Nicolas looked at her directly, with an intensity that made her hold her breath. "Because I see in you what others failed to value," he simply replied, before continuing on his way. That night, as Carla drove to her apartment, she realized that she was no longer the devastated woman who had come looking for work months ago. She had become someone new, someone stronger. And for the first time, the future didn't scare her. Beyond business, a shared past, a new connection. The South American expansion project became Carla's obsession. She stayed late studying markets, analyzing competitors, and preparing strategies. Her small apartment filled with sticky notes and projection charts. In meetings with foreign investors, her presence began to stand out. She was no longer Ferrer's assistant, but the group's strategist. Her way of presenting projects, blending hard data with innovative vision, captivated the audience. One afternoon, while presenting the implementation plan for Chile, she noticed something different in Nicolas's gaze. It was no longer the typical serious and analytical expression. There was something more, a mix of admiration and something she couldn't decipher. "Your presentation was exceptional," he told her afterwards in his office. "I want you to lead the entire operation in South America." "Are you sure?" Carla asked, surprised by the magnitude of the responsibility. "I've never been more sure of anything," he replied, holding her gaze longer than necessary. The promotion came with a new office, her own team, and a salary that allowed her to move into an elegant apartment in an exclusive area. But Carla didn't change her work ethic. She was still the first to arrive and the last to leave. One night, while reviewing documents in Nicolas's office, he surprised her with a confession. "Do you know why I hired you that day?" he asked, putting the papers aside. I saw something in your eyes that I recognized. The hunger to prove your worth, to reinvent yourself. I went through that too. Carla looked at him, intrigued. Nicolas Ferrer, the impenetrable magnate, never spoke of his past. My first marriage ended similarly to yours, he continued, with a shadow in his eyes. She left me for someone with more money, yes, but what really marked me was the way she did it. One day I woke up and found our account empty, our plans destroyed, and a note on the table saying I had never been enough. I spent years obsessed with building something big, not out of ambition, but out of fear of being discarded again, as if I were worthless. Carla felt a lump in her throat. For the first time, she saw in Nicolas not just the relentless businessman, but a man who had been broken and rebuilt with invisible scars. And you succeeded, she replied softly, understanding that he too had wounds to hide. We succeeded, he corrected her. This past year, with you here, the company has grown more than in the last 5. The air between them became charged with a different kind of tension. They were no longer just boss and employee discussing business. They were two people who had overcome similar betrayals, who understood the value of reinvention. We should celebrate, he suggested, surprising her. Have dinner outside the office, to discuss the expansion, of course. Carla felt a flutter in her stomach. Of course, she replied, trying to maintain a professional tone. For the expansion. As she put away her things that night, Carla looked at her reflection in the window. The woman looking back at her had nothing to do with the one who had been humiliated at a gala. She was strong, successful, and for the first time in a long time, she felt ready for something more than just work. What she didn't know was that this professional dinner would mark the beginning of a completely new chapter in her life, Karma's embrace. Esteban's downfall, news about Esteban and Valeria, began to circulate in business circles like an open secret. What had started as a scandalous romance was quickly becoming a public spectacle. Valeria, who had dreamed of a life of luxury and social events, began to show her true colors. Her excessive spending on designer clothes and jewelry was affecting Esteban's finances. Her jealous scenes became legendary in the city's most exclusive restaurants. "Who was that woman you were talking to?" she screamed one night in the middle of a business dinner. "I saw how she looked at you." The woman in question was a potential investor. The deal was lost that very night. Esteban began to notice changes in his bank account. Large sums disappeared in inexplicable purchases. When he questioned Valeria, she responded with tears and accusations of distrust. "After all I gave up for you," was her favorite phrase. "Is this how you repay me?" Valeria's absences became more frequent. "Shopping trips with friends," she said. But rumors told a different story. She had been seen in intimate restaurants with Ricardo Mendez, a younger and richer businessman than Esteban. One morning, while checking the mail, Esteban found credit card statements he didn't recognize. Valeria had been opening lines of credit in his name. "How could you?" he demanded. "I need to maintain a certain standard," she replied, without a trace of remorse. "Or would you prefer your wife to dress like a commoner?" The word wife sounded increasingly bitter. Esteban began to remember his life with Carla. She had never been like that. Her elegance was natural. Her presence was calm and confident. The fights became daily. Neighbors began to comment on the shouting coming from their house. Invitations to social events dwindled. No one wanted to risk another public scandal. One night, after another explosive argument, Esteban found Valeria's phone unlocked. Messages with Ricardo Mendez confirmed his suspicions. "My love, we'll be together soon," one said. "This silly old man doesn't notice anything," she replied. The irony was not lost on him. The one who had betrayed Carla so publicly was now experiencing the same pain he had caused. As he drank alone in his study, he saw on the financial news that Grupo Ferrer had successfully completed its expansion into South America. The photo showed Nicolas Ferrer with his executive team. Among them, radiant and professional, was Carla. The glass in his hand trembled. The woman he had discarded was now shining brighter than ever, while his own world crumbled. The seeds of love, a dinner, a confession. The professional scene between Carla and Nicolas stretched for hours. The Italian restaurant on the top floor of the Hotel Mirador offered a spectacular view of the city, but they barely noticed it, absorbed in their conversation. "I never imagined you also liked photography," Carla commented, surprised to discover this facet of her boss. "There are many things you don't know about me," Nicolas replied, his usual seriousness softened by the wine and conversation. "Like how I learned to cook in Paris while studying administration. Numbers and strategies were forgotten. They talked about travel, books, past and future dreams. The tension that always existed between them transformed into something warmer, more personal. In the office, the following days were different. Glances lasted a second longer than necessary. Accidental brushes when sharing documents created a charged silence. During a particularly successful presentation, Nicolas invited her to celebrate. This time, there were no professional excuses. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" he asked directly. Not as boss and employee, just as Nicolas and Carla. The restaurant was more intimate this time. At one point during the evening, he took her hand across the table. "I like you, Carla," he said, with the same frankness he used in business. "And I think you know it." She felt her heart race. "I like you too," she admitted. "But I'm scared. The last time I mixed work and love—" "I'm not Esteban," he interrupted gently, "and you're not the same woman anymore." The following weeks were a delicate dance between the professional and the personal. In the office, they kept their relationship strictly professional. But the nights were different. Dinners, concerts, long conversations. One night after a company event, Nicolas took her to his penthouse. "I want to show you something," he said, leading her to a room that turned out to be an improvised photography studio. The walls were covered with black and white photographs, landscapes, faces, moments captured in time. "This is my true passion," he confessed. "Business is important, but this is what makes me feel alive." Carla observed the images, moved by this revelation of vulnerability in a man everyone considered impenetrable. "They're beautiful," she whispered, turning to him. Their gazes met, and this time there were no excuses or doubts. The kiss was soft at first, then more intense, laden with all the feelings they had been holding back. When they parted, Nicolas rested his forehead against hers. "I don't want this to be a secret," he said. "I'm not ashamed of how I feel about you." Carla smiled, feeling a mix of happiness and fear. This time, she promised herself, it would be different. This time, it was real. A new life blooms. Pregnancy and proposal. Carla noticed the first symptoms during an important meeting. The aroma of coffee, which she normally loved, made her nauseous. The subtle dizziness she had been ignoring for days could no longer be attributed to fatigue. In her office bathroom, sitting with a pregnancy test in her hands, time seemed to stop. 2 pink lines appeared clearly. Positive. "I'm pregnant," she whispered to herself, a mixture of fear and excitement churning inside her. Her mind filled with questions. How would Nicolas react? They had only been together for 6 months. Their relationship, though intense and sincere, was relatively new. And what would happen to her career? The South American project was at a crucial moment. Over the next few days, Carla kept the secret, observing Nicolas in meetings, looking for the right moment to tell him. He noticed that something was different. "Are you all right?" he asked her one afternoon, concerned. "You look pale. We need to talk," she replied. "But not here." That night, in Nicolas's apartment, Carla paced back and forth while he watched her with concern. "What's wrong, Carla? You're scaring me." She stopped in front of him, took a deep breath, and took the pregnancy test from her purse. "I'm pregnant," she said simply, studying his face for a reaction. Nicholas stood motionless for a moment, his eyes fixed on the test. Then he slowly got up and walked to the window, rubbing his chin in a tense gesture. "I didn't expect it," he finally admitted. "I don't know if I'm ready for this, Carla." "Me neither," she replied sincerely, feeling the fear in her voice. The silence stretched, and for an instant, Carla feared the worst. But then Nicholas turned, walked towards her, and took her hands. "I'm not ready, but I want to be," he said firmly. "And if this means we're going to be a family, then we'll find a way." Carla felt a tear escape her eyes, relieved. It wasn't the perfect answer, but it was real. When they parted, Carla saw something she had never seen before, tears in Nicolas Ferrer's eyes. "But your career, the project," she began. "We'll find a way," he interrupted her. "Together. You don't have to choose between being a mother and being an executive. I'll support you in everything." That night, cuddled on the sofa, they made plans for the future. They talked about doctors, office changes, and how to balance work and family. "You know," Nicholas said, gently stroking Carla's still flat belly, "I think this baby is the best deal we've closed so far." Carla laughed, tears of happiness mixing with her laughter. For the first time in her life, she felt that everything was exactly as it should be. A family built on true values. The news of Carla's pregnancy was handled discreetly in the office. Only the closest team was informed, and the response was genuine joy. Nicolas, known for his professional coldness, surprised everyone with small gestures that revealed his emotion. One morning, Carla arrived at her office and found a bouquet of flowers with a note. "For the brightest future mother in the corporate world." Such thoughtful details became frequent. During a particularly long meeting, Nicolas abruptly interrupted the presentation when he noticed Carla looking pale. "We'll continue in an hour," he announced without explanation. Minutes later, his assistant appeared with a plate of fruit and salt crackers, known for helping with morning sickness. The real impact came during a board meeting. Nicolas presented a revolutionary proposal, a corporate daycare facility on the company premises. "Talent has no gender," he declared before the board, "and we cannot lose valuable executives just because they decide to become parents." The proposal was approved, setting a precedent in the local business world. At home, Nicholas transformed completely. The man who intimidated seasoned executives now spent hours reading books on parenting and child development. One night, while having dinner at home, Nicholas handed Carla an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside, she found legal documents. Nicholas had modified his will and the company's share structure, ensuring her and the baby's future. "I never want you to go through what you experienced before," he explained. "I want you to know that both you and our child will always be protected." Carla moved, noticed something else in the papers. "A house?" she asked, surprised. "In Las Lomas," he confirmed. "With a garden for the baby to play and a study for you, so you can work from home when you need to." Tears began to stream down Carla's cheeks. "I thought you didn't believe in marriage," she whispered, noticing an additional detail in the documents. Nicholas knelt before her, taking a small box from his pocket. "I didn't believe in many things before I met you," he said, opening the box to reveal a ring. "Would you do me the honor of officially forming a family with me?" Carla's answer was immediate and tearful. "Yes." That night, as Nicholas slept, Carla reflected on how life had come full circle. The pain of her past with Esteban now seemed a distant memory, almost necessary to reach this moment. Caressing her slightly bulging belly, she whispered, "Your dad is an extraordinary man, baby, and we are very lucky." Triumph and irony. A public appearance. The convention center shone with the lights of the most important corporate event of the year. Carla, now vice president of Grupo Ferrer, walked confidently beside Nicolas. Her 5-month pregnancy was barely noticeable under her elegant dress, specially designed for the occasion. "Ready to give the speech?" Nicolas asked, gently squeezing her hand. "Born ready," she replied with a confident smile. The event gathered the country's most important businessmen. Carla was to present the results of the South American expansion, a resounding success that had doubled Grupo Ferrer's value. As she greeted some executives, she saw him. Esteban was standing near the bar, holding a glass of whiskey. He looked older, more tired. Their eyes met for a moment. "Carla," Nicholas whispered in her ear, "it's your time to shine." She walked to the podium with the confidence of someone who knows exactly who she is. Her presentation was impeccable. The numbers, the projections, the future vision, everything flowed naturally and with authority. During the cocktail reception afterward, Esteban approached. He had been drinking. "You look different," he said, his voice slightly slurred. "I am," Carla simply replied. "Is it true? Are you pregnant with Ferrer's child?" "My personal life is none of your business, Esteban. I made a mistake," he began. "No, Esteban," she interrupted him. "You made the best decision of my life. You freed me to find my true path." Nicolas appeared by her side, his presence imposing and protective. "Everything all right, love?" he asked, though his eyes were fixed on Esteban. "Perfect," Carla replied. "In fact, I think it's time for us to go. Tomorrow we have the ultrasound to find out the baby's sex." Esteban watched them walk away, noticing how Nicolas protectively placed his hand on Carla's back, how she naturally leaned into him, the complicity in their gestures. "They look happy," someone commented beside him. "They are," another voice replied. "They say he changed completely since he's been with her. And she, well, everyone knows her story. From assistant to vice president in record time. Pure talent." Esteban drank the rest of his whiskey in one gulp. From the ballroom window, he watched Carla and Nicolas get into their car. She laughed at something he had said, her hand resting instinctively on her belly. At that moment, Esteban understood that some mistakes are irreversible, and that sometimes, what seems like a tragedy can be the beginning of something extraordinary for others. The bitter taste of regret, the days after the event were torture for Esteban. The image of Carla, radiant and successful, haunted him. Every news piece about the Ferrer Group, every mention of her name in business circles, was like salt in an open wound. In his office, now considerably smaller than before, he spent hours looking at old photos on his phone. Photos of when he was the successful businessman, when Carla was his wife, when everything seemed perfect. "Sir," his secretary interrupted, "Ms. Valeria is on the phone. She says it's urgent." Esteban sighed. Valeria's calls were always urgent, especially when she needed more money. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." The rumors about Valeria and Ricardo Mendez had become impossible to ignore. He had seen them together in restaurants, at events, always pretending they were just friends. During lunch, at his favorite restaurant, the maitre d' greeted him with less deference than before. His usual table was occupied by a group of young executives. "I'm sorry, sir," the maitre d' apologized, but without a reservation. As he ate at the bar, he heard two businessmen talking about the Ferrer Group. "Did you see Carla Montero's presentation? Brilliant. And to think her ex left her for a gold digger. Yes, now she's with Ferrer. They're going to have a baby. He adores her. They even say he changed the company's bylaws to give her more power." Esteban gripped his glass so hard he almost broke it. Back in his office, his assistant handed him more bad news. Several investors were withdrawing their support. Esteban's reputation for personal instability was affecting his business. That night, alone in his house, Valeria had gone out with friends. Esteban surfed the internet when he found a recent interview with Carla in a business magazine. "Success isn't just about numbers," she said in the interview. "It's about growing as a person, about finding your true worth. Sometimes we need to lose everything to find ourselves." The photo accompanying the article showed Carla in her office overlooking the city. Her pregnancy was already visible, and her smile conveyed a peace Esteban had never seen in her during their marriage. "Idiot," he told himself, throwing the tablet onto the sofa. "You had her all along, and you didn't see it." The sound of his phone pulled him from his thoughts. It was a message from his bank. Another substantial transfer had been made from his account. The beneficiary's name, Valeria Ruiz. The irony of the situation hit him like a slap. He, who had betrayed a valuable woman for someone who only sought his money, was now paying the price for his decisions. The final, crushing blow. Desperation led Esteban to make an impulsive decision. One rainy morning, he showed up at Grupo Ferrer's offices without an appointment. "I need to see Carla Montero," he insisted at reception. "Ms. Montero Ferrer is in a meeting," the receptionist replied, emphasizing the hyphenated surname. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell her it's Esteban. She knows me." "I'm sorry, but no appointment." Esteban sat in the lobby, determined to wait. Hours passed. Executives and employees came and went, some recognizing him and whispering among themselves. Finally, around noon, Carla appeared in the lobby with Nicolas. Her 6-month pregnancy was more noticeable now, and she wore an elegant maternity suit that highlighted her condition. "Carla," Esteban called, standing up. She stopped, surprised. Nicolas took a step forward, protective, but Carla stopped him with a gentle gesture. "It's okay," she told Nicolas. "Can you give me a moment?" Nicolas nodded, but stayed close, observing the situation. "What do you want, Esteban?" Carla asked, her voice professional and distant. "I've been thinking about us, about everything that happened. There is no us, Esteban. There hasn't been for a long time. I made a mistake," he insisted. "I miss you. Life without you." "Stop!" she interrupted him firmly. "Don't do this. Don't humiliate yourself further." "But look at me, Esteban," she said, her voice softer now. "I'm happy, truly happy. I have a successful career, a husband who loves and respects me, and I'm expecting a child. What we had belongs to the past." "We could try again," he pleaded. "Yes, I know I made mistakes, but mistakes teach us." "Life teaches us all," she replied, instinctively stroking her belly. "Yours taught me my true worth, and for that, ironically, I thank you." Nicolas approached, gently placing his hand on Carla's back. "Ready for lunch, love? We have the pediatrician's appointment afterward." "Yes, let's go," she replied, turning to Esteban one last time. "Goodbye, Esteban. I wish you the best." Esteban watched them walk away, noticing how Nicolas held the umbrella over Carla as they walked to their car, how he helped her get in, the small gestures of affection between them. At that moment, in the rain in front of the imposing Grupo Ferrer building, Esteban understood that some losses are definitive, and that sometimes the greatest punishment is not losing something, but seeing how it flourishes in the hands of another. The end of an empire. Esteban's ruin, Carla's rejection, marked the beginning of a downward spiral in Esteban's life. Upon returning to his office that day, he found a letter from his accountant. The accounts were in the red. "Sir," his assistant interrupted in a panic, "Ms. Valeria withdrew another $2 million from the joint account this morning." Esteban didn't even flinch. He already expected something like this. What he didn't expect was to find his house empty that night. Valeria had emptied the safes and taken all the jewelry, even those that had belonged to his mother. There was only a note on the table. "I'm leaving with Ricardo. He knows how to treat a woman. Don't look for me. P.S. Your mother's jewelry sold very well on the black market." Esteban collapsed in his chair, the weight of his decisions finally crushing him. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Creditors, partners, banks, all demanding explanations. In less than 24 hours, his world completely crumbled. The news of his ruin spread through business circles like wildfire. The few remaining partners withdrew their support. Suppliers demanded upfront payments. During a meeting with his lawyer, reality hit him hard. "Esteban," the lawyer said, adjusting his glasses. "Valeria had legal access to all accounts. The transfers were authorized, and the prenuptial you signed, well, let's just say it was very generous to her." "How much do I have left?" Esteban asked, dreading the answer. "Barely enough to keep the company afloat if you act fast. But the house, the cars, the summer properties, you'll have to sell them." At the social club where he was once treated like royalty, he was now barely greeted. His preferred table was permanently reserved for Ricardo Mendez, who didn't miss an opportunity to show off his relationship with Valeria. That afternoon, after discovering Valeria's betrayal, Esteban made his last attempt to recover his company. He called the few investors who still trusted him, presenting a desperate plan to save what was left. But the damage was already done. No one wanted to risk it with a man whose public image was in ruins. One by one, the investors rejected his offer. With no other options, he sold his last luxury car. It was then that, crossing the street, he saw Carla and Nicolas in a baby store. She held a tiny onesie, while he hugged her from behind, both laughing, completely oblivious to his presence. For the first time in his life, Esteban understood the meaning of true defeat. Back in his rented apartment, he had had to sell the house. Esteban found a business magazine. On the cover, an article about the 50 most powerful women in business showed Carla in the top 10. The story of Carla Montero Ferrer is a testament to resilience, the article read. From a betrayed wife to becoming one of the most respected executives in the country, her trajectory inspires thousands. Esteban closed the magazine and poured another whiskey. The amber liquid no longer tasted the same. Like everything else in his life, it had turned bitter. His phone rang. It was another creditor. With trembling hands, he turned it off. In the reflection of the black screen, he saw his haggard, aged face. How had he come to this? The answer was simple. His own decisions had led him exactly where he deserved to be. A final glimpse of happiness. In a last desperate attempt to salvage something from his old life, Esteban planned a casual encounter with Carla. He knew she frequently had lunch at the business center's restaurant, so he waited for her there for 3 consecutive days. On the 4th day, she appeared. Her advanced pregnancy made her look radiant, and several executives stopped to greet her respectfully as she walked towards her usual table. "Carla," he said, intercepting her before she reached her destination. "I need to talk to you." She looked at him with a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Esteban, we've already had this conversation. Please, just 5 minutes. It's about us." "Us?" she interrupted, her voice firm but controlled. "An us stopped existing a long time ago. I loved you," he insisted. "I still love you. I made the biggest mistake of my life by letting you go." Carla took a deep breath, instinctively stroking her belly. "No, Esteban, your mistake wasn't letting me go. Your mistake was not valuing me when you had me. We can try again," he pleaded. "Yes, I know I made mistakes, but mistakes teach us," she replied, instinctively stroking her belly. "Yours taught me my true worth, and for that, ironically, I thank you." "Yes, I know I made mistakes, but mistakes teach us," she replied, instinctively stroking her belly. Yours taught me my true worth, and for that, ironically, I thank you. Nicholas approached, gently placing his hand on Carla's back. Ready for lunch, love? We have the pediatrician's appointment afterward. Yes, let's go, she replied, turning to Esteban one last time. Goodbye, Esteban. I wish you the best. Esteban watched them walk away, noticing how Nicholas held the umbrella over Carla as they walked to their car. How he helped her get in. The small gestures of affection between them. Only then, seeing that natural intimacy between them, did Esteban understand that he had lost not only a woman, but the chance to be a better person. And that loss, more than any financial ruin, was what hurt the most. The new beginning, a family's legacy. The morning began with a call Esteban never expected to receive. His bank informed him of massive transfers made overnight. All accounts, even the secret ones abroad, had been emptied. Sir, his assistant said, entering his office in a panic. Ms. Valeria, she... He didn't need her to finish the sentence. On his desk, the documents said it all. Valeria had not only emptied the accounts, but had also sold company shares, using a power of attorney he had naively granted her months ago. She also left this, the assistant added, handing him an envelope. Inside was a brief letter. Thanks for everything, darling. Ricardo and I will enjoy your generosity in the Maldives. Don't bother looking for me. By the time you read this, we'll be far away. P.S. Your mother's jewelry sold very well on the black market. Esteban collapsed in his chair, the weight of his decisions finally crushing him. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Creditors, partners, banks, all demanding explanations. In less than 24 hours, his world completely crumbled. The news of his ruin spread through business circles like wildfire. The few remaining partners withdrew their support. Suppliers demanded upfront payments. That afternoon, as he cleared out his office, he found an old photo of his wedding to Carla. The irony hit him like a punch. He had betrayed a woman who genuinely loved him for someone who only saw a bank account in him. In the parking lot, his last luxury car had been repossessed. He had to take a taxi back to his modest rented apartment. The news on television was the final blow. Financial scandal. Businessman Esteban Martinez loses everything in love scam. His wife, Valeria Ruiz, disappears with millions. His phone rang one last time. It was Ricardo Mendez. Just wanted to thank you, he said mockingly. Valeria is an excellent partner, though a bit expensive, don't you think? Esteban hung up and threw the phone against the wall. He poured himself a cheap whiskey. He could no longer afford his favorite brands, and sat in the darkness of his apartment. In the building across the street, a giant screen showed corporate advertising. Grupo Ferrer's logo shone in the night, reminding him of everything he had lost. The final irony of his life struck him then. He had lost a valuable woman for greed and lust, only to be destroyed for the very same reasons. Karma, he thought bitterly, had a rather twisted sense of humor. The legacy of love and resilience, the birth of little Alejandro Ferrer Montero, was celebrated with a discreet note in the society section. Carla and Nicholas, true to their style, kept the event private, sharing their happiness only with close family and friends. In the hospital room, Nicholas held his son, while Carla watched them with love. The baby had his mother's eyes and his father's strong jaw. He's perfect, Nicholas whispered, tears welling in his eyes. Just like his mother. Life in the Ferrer Montero residence found a new rhythm. Carla proved that being a mother and an executive were not mutually exclusive roles. The corporate daycare that Nicolas had implemented became a model for other companies, and Alejandro was its first and happiest occupant. During board meetings, Carla did her best to stay strong, But sleepless nights and the guilt of leaving her son at home began to weigh on her. One day, after a particularly difficult meeting, she locked herself in her office and took a deep breath, feeling tears threaten to escape. Nicolas entered unannounced and found her there, tired and vulnerable. "What's wrong?" he asked softly. "I feel like I'm not enough anywhere," she admitted. "Neither as a mother nor as a vice president." Nicolas watched her for a moment. Then he walked to her and hugged her. "You are more than enough," he said. "But you don't have to do it alone. We're in this together. Remember?" Carla exhaled slowly, letting her tension dissipate little by little. It wasn't easy, but she had something she never had before: unconditional support. Grupo Ferrer continued its expansion, now with a focus on family and equity policies. Carla led these initiatives, transforming her personal experience into positive corporate changes. One afternoon, while feeding Alejandro in her office, Carla received news. Esteban's company had been declared completely bankrupt. Assets would be auctioned to pay debts. "Are you okay?" Nicolas asked, who had silently entered the office. "Yes," she replied, looking at her son with love. "You know, I once thought losing everything was the end of the world. Now, I know that sometimes we need to lose something to gain everything." Nicolas approached, embracing his family. Through the office window, the sunset painted the sky in golden hues, a perfect reflection of the happiness they felt. "Who would have thought," Nicolas smiled, "that my best business decision would be hiring an assistant with no experience? And mine was trusting an apparently cold boss," she replied, kissing him softly. Alejandro cooed happily, as if approving his parents' words. The little one already showed his mother's determination and his father's serenity. At that moment, holding her son and being embraced by her husband, Carla understood a universal truth. Success is not measured in money or power, but in the ability to build something meaningful and lasting. Esteban's betrayal, which once seemed to destroy her, had actually been the catalyst for her true happiness. Sometimes, she thought, endings are just beginnings in disguise. And as night fell over the city, the Ferrer Montero family represented living proof that true love, mutual respect, and determination can build something far more valuable than any material fortune. The last echoes of the past, 5 years later, on a cold winter morning, Esteban walked through the streets of the financial district. His clothes, though clean, showed signs of wear. He now worked as a consultant at a small firm, a job far below his former position, but enough to survive. He stopped in front of a magazine stand, drawn by a familiar cover. The magazine Entrepreneurs Today showed a photo that took his breath away. Carla and Nicolas Ferrer, along with their young son Alejandro, now 5 years old, and a newborn baby in Carla's arms. The Ferrer Montero. "Building an Empire with Family Values," read the headline. The article highlighted how they had revolutionized the corporate world with their work-life balance policies. Through the store window, Esteban read fragments of the article. Grupo Ferrer had tripled its value. Carla was now internationally recognized as a leader in business innovation. Their corporate daycare program had expanded to all their branches in Latin America. "Are you going to buy the magazine, sir?" the vendor asked. Esteban shook his head. He didn't need to read anymore. The image said it all. Carla radiant, more beautiful than ever. Nicolas looking at her with adoration. Little Alejandro smiling with his mother's same bright eyes. And the new baby completing the perfect family. As he walked away, he remembered the last news he had heard about Valeria. She and Ricardo had lost everything in a bad investment in Dubai. The latest rumors said she was working as a waitress somewhere in Europe. Fate, Esteban thought, had a peculiar way of dispensing justice. Arriving at his modest office, he found an invitation on his desk. Grupo Ferrer was organizing a charity gala to inaugurate its new foundation for the support of women entrepreneurs. Esteban put the invitation in a drawer. He wouldn't go, of course. Some places no longer belonged to him. That night, from the window of his small apartment, he could see the Grupo Ferrer building illuminating the skyline. Somewhere in that glass tower, he imagined Carla in her office, probably working late, while Nicolas took care of the children. In the end, he murmured to himself, she was always the stronger of the two. And so, in the solitude of his new life, Esteban finally understood that some losses are truly gains in disguise, but not for the one who loses, but for the one who is freed. His greatest mistake had been the catalyst for Carla's greatest success, and that was an irony he would have to live with for the rest of his life. Dear friends who accompany us on this exciting story of overcoming and true love. If Carla and Nicolas's story touched your heart, if you felt the satisfaction of seeing karma catch up to Esteban and Valeria, or if you simply enjoyed this emotional roller coaster, don't forget to leave your like, comment your favorite moments, and share this story with someone who needs inspiration to rise and shine. And if you want more stories that make you laugh, cry, and believe in the power of resilience, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Now, tell us in the comments, from what country are you experiencing this adventure with us? Your opinion is very important to our international community.